We're a long ways away from the snot-nosed Bay Area punk rock band that Green Day started out as. In my opinion, that band is completely dead. And in today's video, we're gonna go through the Green Day discography and pinpoint the exact day that this pop-punk power band died a very brutal and dangerous death. Hey ladies, Dan Frampton here. How's about you like, comment, and subscribe before we get going? And this slip and slide is gonna start in 1989 with the record 39 Smooth. Now, in 1991, they compiled all the EPs and this record into a record that they called 1039 Smoothed Out Slappy Hours, but I'm not considering that, okay? Because that wasn't a complete project. That wasn't a conceived album. However, this was. And 39 Smooth, pretty good album. This band is clearly tight, and there's a lot of promise going on here, and they're developing a pretty good fan base. There's glimmers of great songwriting here, but it's not really what Green Day would turn out to be. This stuff is Gilman tested, true punk certified, and there's no Tré Cool in sight. And that's not to say the drumming isn't good. Tré Cool would take the drumming style from this record and just improve upon it. In 1991, they put out Kerplunk, and basically they took all the elements of what made 39 Smooth great and just improved upon them on every aspect. The musicianship, the songwriting, the recording, it's all polished up a bit here on Kerplunk and still sounding very punk rock, very DIY. Now we got Tré Cool's signature style just holding everything together there in the back end. It's still not quite full form, but songs like Welcome to Paradise and the cover of My Generation tell me that these guys are going to become full form very soon, and that they would. In 1994, they would of course release Dookie, and it would change the landscape not only for punk rock, not only for pop punk, but for an entire generation of angsty music listeners. This was the year Kurt Cobain died, and grunge was kind of on the outs, and we needed something else, and Green Day was happy to provide that with this record here. What else can I say about it? It's totally Green Day at full form. It's an era-defying breakthrough, precedent-setting, and door-opening for so many bands. It would go on to be extremely influential and very important to the entire decade of popular music. So now Green Day are fully alive and well. But the punk scene is feeling a little bit betrayed. Gilman are like, hey guys, you can't play here anymore because you're a little bit too big, you're a little bit too mainstream, and that goes against the punk rock ethic of this venue. And in 1995, they dropped what I would consider their best record. They went a little fast. They went a little dark. They were a bit more aggressive on these cuts. Everything is really, really short. By God, they made almost a perfect pop-punk record. But this time around, they were leaning more on the punk side of things rather than the pop side of things because they were out to prove a point. And in my opinion, they proved it. Brain Stew and Walking Contradiction would be the biggest singles off of this thing, but my favorite cut is Geek Stink Breath. If you see this album artwork over here, this is the 25 Years of Insomniac edition, where it's a blown out picture of the full painting. But this over here, this first one we see that I'm circling over, that's the original artwork. It's kind of like a zoomed in thing, and I guess they didn't want an image of this lady pointing a gun at a baby. That would be my reason to crop this. But anyway, let's move on. In 1997, Green Day would drop their final record of the decade when they put out Nimrod. And they'd say, this is not really an album. We're not doing an album on this one. We're just doing a collection of songs. We're experimenting. We're trying to find a new voice. They still prove to be hit-writing powerhouses on this thing, but it is a chaotic listen from front to back. They're experimenting with surf rock and ska. But my favorite cut is when they do a hardcore track called Take Back. Very tasty. And the extremely fast punk rock inspired Platypus is another delicious dish. So Green Day survives the entire decade of the 90s. They are not dead yet. They're trying to experiment, they're trying to grow, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nimrod would be the record that Good Riddance came off of, okay? This is that acoustic cut that everybody knows. And they would take the popularity of that acoustic cut and make an entire kind of folk rock thing on this thing called Warning in the year 2000, this thing is a weird record. It's still got pieces of Green Day in there, okay? But it is a little bit tired. It needs a shot in the arm. But it's important to note here that since there is a little bit of Green Day left in the nucleus of this record, that it's just tired, not completely dead yet. But then in 2004, they would drop the record that would make them the most culturally relevant band that they've ever been. Now, this was a year that George Bush was around, okay? He was leading the United States of America, and everybody was kicking off about that, and Green Day was no different. But now Green Day looked like a completely different band. Out with the baggy pants, and in with the black suits and the red ties, okay? The black eyeliner and the black hair, now they look like a very dark and emotional band. And back in the day when this thing dropped, I hated it, okay? I didn't care that it was ambitious. I didn't care that it was a punk rock opera or anything like that. I didn't give a shit. I was like, who is this band? Why do they have all this black hair and black eyes? And, I just didn't get the whole thing. But now, as an adult, I can completely appreciate it, and the songs still do actually hold up. This would be the rebrand that would save them completely. It was purposeful, it was meticulous, it was very cerebral, and it was out to say something. And in my opinion, it did all of that very successfully. And just like in the 90s, when something gets popular, they're like, hey, let's do this thing again, and let's do it worse this time around, okay? So they did another rock opera called 21st Century Breakdown, and it is not very good in my opinion. It is long-winded, it is pretentious, it is just not entirely my thing. I do kind of appreciate what they were going for here, but they were just trying to be the rock opera band at this point, okay? We're a highbrow pop punk band. And it just didn't quite make sense to me. But with all that being said, it still sounds like Green Day. And now it's 2012, and they thought it would be a great idea to be prolific for the sake of being prolific. Now, I think this is a very fun way to make music, to just go into a studio and just bang out track after track after track after track. And that's what they did with Uno, Dos, Tre. They recorded so many songs that it could come out in 3 different installments. And in my opinion, this thing is a slog. We got this power pop thing, and then they're doing this grunge thing. It's just all over the place and just very tedious to get through. But you can tell that the band is just doing it to have a lot of fun, and for the true fans, it's tracks for them to have fun with too. So Green Day's not dead yet, they're still kicking. And then Revolution Radio would come out, and this was just Green Day, the radio rock band. Okay? It still sounded a bit like Green Day, and just like on Warning, it was them spinning their wheels. They were tired. They were bored. They were just trying to redeem themselves from Uno, Dos, Tre. They're like, yeah, okay, I know that was a little bit tedious and meandering. This time, we're going to tighten it up and we're going to make a record. And by doing that, it just feels like an overly polished piece of crap, but still not quite dead. So you might be saying, hey Dan, that's a long time. What do you mean? How have they put out all these records? They reinvented themselves time and time again. What do you mean they're not dead yet? Well, that's because the year 2020 hadn't happened yet. In that year was the day, the very day that Green Day died, and that day was February 7th. On that day, they released Father of All Motherfuckers. Now, if you see this record cover here, it might look familiar. It's American Idiot, their most culturally relevant piece of artwork, and they just puked all over it with literal ketchup and rainbows. What is this thing? They set out to totally disgrace everything that they were. And there's no Green Day on this record. No, Green Day is nowhere to be found. They're trying to do 50s rock. They're trying to do R&B, for Christ's sake. They're trying to do glam rock, all on the same record. And to me, it just sounds like they're trying to make those songs that they play in between goals at the hockey game, you know? But they're just so low-tier versions of them that you can see them being played at like a middle school softball game instead. So early Green Day, dead. American Idiot Green Day, completely dead. Experimental Content Farmers, completely, absolutely, nail in the coffin, dead as a fucking doornail. The essence of Green Day has completely escaped our realm of existence. The only positive that I can think about this record is that it's only 26 minutes long. And do you remember the marketing, this billboard? No features, no Swedish songwriters, no trap beats, 100% pure uncut rock. Green Day. How is that not the most ironic thing that you could imagine? So yeah, they had a good run. It was like 30 years or so, but it's official. Green Day is dead. Okay, did you like what you saw here today? Please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell if you're cool as hell, and until my next upload, watch another upload.